Sarah Mitchell hurried along the platform, her heart pounding in her chest. The 5:15 to Oakhaven was pulling away, its whistle echoing through the small station. She was late, later than she'd ever been. The old clock tower in the town square chimed 6 times, mocking her with its relentless rhythm. Sarah had always been punctual, a creature of habit in their sleepy little town of Willow Creek. But today was different. Today, time seemed to slip through her fingers like grains of sand. She watched the train disappear around the bend, its red taillights fading into the approaching twilight. A wave of frustration washed over Sarah. The next train wasn't for another 2 hours. She sank onto the wooden bench, the harsh glare of the platform lights amplifying the emptiness around her. The rain began as a soft drizzle, misting the platform and blurring the lights of Willow Creek in the distance. Sarah huddled deeper into her coat, the chill seeping into her bones. It was as if the very heavens mirrored her turmoil. With a sigh, she pulled out her phone, the screen illuminating her face with an eerie glow. No new messages, no missed calls. The silence was deafening, just the rhythmic drumming of rain on the platform awning and the distant rumble of thunder. Suddenly, the loud clang of a bell echoed through the station, jolting Sarah back to the present. A train was approaching. She scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding once more. This wasn't her train, not the 5:15, but she had to get out of this town. The train screeched to a halt, its brakes sighing in protest. Sarah boarded, finding an empty carriage dimly lit by flickering overhead lamps. Rain lashed against the windows, blurring the outside world into an indistinguishable gray. She settled into a seat, clutching her bag tightly. Across from her, an old man sat by the window, his face etched with a network of wrinkles. He wore a worn tweed coat and a newsboy cap pulled low over his brow. His eyes, a piercing blue that seemed to hold the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes, were fixed on her. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, struck by the intensity of his gaze. He reminded her of her grandfather, a kind man with a penchant for storytelling and a twinkle in his eye. This man, however, held a certain gravity, an aura of quiet sorrow that drew her in. "Lost, are you?" The man finally spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to emanate from deep within him. Sarah hesitated, caught off guard by the question. I missed my train," she stammered, surprised by the tremor in her voice. The old man chuckled, a dry, crackling sound. "The train is never late, nor is it early. It arrives precisely when it means to," he said, his eyes twinkling with an odd amusement. "What does that even mean?" Sarah asked, feeling a surge of irritation mixed with an unsettling curiosity. The old man smiled, a knowing, almost sad expression. "Time, my dear, is not what you think it is. It's not linear, not a straight path we all follow. It's a river, ever-flowing, ever-changing. We are all caught in its current, some of us fighting it, some of us surrendering to its flow." His words, strange and cryptic, resonated within Sarah. She had always felt a disconnect, a sense of being out of sync with the world around her. Could this be what he meant? Section 5. The Weight of Time. The train rattled on, the rhythmic clatter of the wheels against the tracks a hypnotic soundtrack to their conversation. Sarah found herself drawn into the old man's orbit, captivated by his enigmatic pronouncements. "We all lose things, Sarah," he continued, his voice barely a whisper now. "People, places, moments in time. But sometimes those losses, they have a way of finding us again. They remind us of who we are, who we were meant to be." He paused, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "Don't let time slip away, child. Find what you've lost. It's waiting for you." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Sarah wanted to ask him more, to decipher the riddles he spoke, but something in his demeanor told her he had said all he intended to. The old man reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a worn pocket watch, its gold casing tarnished with time. He held it up, the rhythmic ticking almost deafening in the quiet carriage. "Time is precious, Sarah. Don't waste it chasing shadows," he said, his voice hoarse and raspy. He closed the watch with a snap and placed it on the seat beside him. Then, as if he were part of the shadows himself, he began to fade. Not all at once, but slowly, gradually, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Sarah watched in disbelief, her breath caught in her throat. One moment he was there, the next he was gone, vanished, as if he had never been there at all. She was alone in the carriage, The only evidence of the old man's existence, the faint scent of pipe tobacco, and the ticking pocket watch on the seat opposite her. Sarah reached for the watch, her fingers trembling. It was warm to the touch, as if it still held the essence of the old man's presence. She turned it over in her hands, examining its intricate engravings. As she flipped it open, a small, folded piece of paper fell out. It was a letter, addressed to her in a spidery handwriting that mirrored the old man's enigmatic nature. "Sarah," it began, "if you are reading this, then fate has brought us together for a reason. You are meant to find what you have lost. The time is now. The place is where your heart leads you." The letter ended abruptly, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. She reread the words, each syllable etched into her memory. Who was this man? And what had he meant by "find what you've lost"? The train lurched, pulling Sarah from her thoughts. She glanced out the window. The rain had stopped, and the first rays of dawn were painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. They were approaching a station, a small, unfamiliar town nestled amidst rolling hills. The train slowed to a stop, the platform deserted at this early hour. Sarah gathered her belongings, her mind still reeling from the encounter with the old man. As she stepped off the train, the letter clutched tightly in her hand. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been irrevocably changed. The old man's words echoed in her ears, urging her to seize the moment, to unravel the mysteries of her own life. He had been a catalyst, a ripple in the fabric of time, setting in motion a chain of events she was only beginning to comprehend. Sarah took a deep breath, the crisp morning air filling her lungs with a renewed sense of purpose. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she had to start walking. The old man's pocket watch felt heavy in her hand, a tangible reminder of their fleeting encounter. As Sarah glanced down at its face, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Engraved on the back, in small delicate letters, were the words Willow Creek, her hometown. A surge of electricity shot through her. The old man knew where she was from. He knew her story. But how? Suddenly, it dawned on her. The old man hadn't been talking about a physical object she had lost. He was talking about something far more profound, a part of herself, a forgotten dream, a love that time had not diminished. With a newfound determination, Sarah turned and headed towards the ticket booth. She had a train to catch, the 7:15 to Willow Creek. This time she wouldn't be late. The search for what she had lost had just begun.